Hey guys, welcome to G Whiskey. I'm Jeff. This is a channel where I offer my thoughts and opinions on a specific whiskey, and every once in a while throw in other whiskey related content. Today I've got a list for you guys. I want to go through 5 under the radar, no age stated whiskeys. So it should be a fun one. Stick around. Alright, so I've got a list for you guys today. We're doing under the radar gems, and this video is a continuation of a series of videos that I started forever ago, and it's a theme that I like to come back to every so often because it's relevant. Not relevant, useful. Now, of course, some of the whiskeys on this list are going to be more under the radar than others, but for the most part, I'd say all the whiskeys on this list aren't being talked about too much these days. But on the flip side of that, none of them are going to be like super obscure weirdo whiskeys. They do need to be widely available. These all need to be OB releases that you guys are likely to be able to find if you go out looking for them. Of course, depending on how deep you are into the whiskey scene, you may have heard of some, most of these, whatever. So they cannot be too obscure, but they cannot be too popular either, and they need to be available. The main takeaway here, I suppose, is that it just can't be too popular. So no Glen Scotia Victoriana, no Highland Park Cast Strength, no Bruichladdich Classic Laddie, no Ardbeg Uigeadail, no Kilchoman's, no Aaron's. We don't want the obvious choices. Now, I wasn't too preoccupied with price when I was putting this list together, but I didn't want to give you anything that's obscenely expensive, especially as it's no age stated. So the vast majority of these whiskeys should be under 100 US. And yeah, as usual, guys, I've got a mystery pour in my glass here. It is a beautiful whiskey, so make sure you stick around till after the list. I'll let you know what that is. And let's dig into it. 5 under the radar, no, 7 under the radar, no age stated whiskeys. Damn, I just realized that I've been saying 5 the entire time. I just fixed the background. I don't have 5 whiskeys for you. I've got 7 on this list, so bonus. Happy birthday. So I want to kick things off with an honorable mention here. This is one that I reviewed a while back. I did give it a good score, but I wasn't quite as enthusiastic as a lot of you guys were about this stuff. Still, it's a great option if you're into peat and sherry, and that is the Laphroaig Lore. The reason this one's just an honorable mention is that it used to be a very popular whiskey. A lot of people were really into this stuff a few years back, but you hear less chatter about it nowadays, and I think I know why. I think a lot of the attention and enthusiasm people used to have for this bottle shifted over when they released the sherried 10-year-old. Still, this is a solid bottle. I've had kind of a love-hate relationship with it over the years, but ultimately I do think it's a really good option. Again, if you're into the peat and the sherry, so it's one to check out. Honorable mention, Laphroaig Lore. Kicking our list off at number 7, I've got the Neckliora. This is a cast strength expression. It's a powerful whiskey. It's a great showpiece for the Bladnoch House style, which I always describe as funky fermented fruit. And it should be pretty widely available. I know it's been released in the US, it's in Australia, and it's in Europe now, so pretty much across the board, you guys should be able to find this stuff. And while it's not their best whiskey, it's not as good as something like the 11, for example. It is much more affordable. And again, it's cast strength. That extra ABV really elevates the whiskey. Bladnoch for me is a wonderful whiskey, but it is very much a take it or leave it profile. There's going to be a lot of you that don't get along with this stuff. It's a very distinctive whiskey, and it might be a little bit odd for some of you. Still worth checking out. Really good whiskey. Comes in at number 7, Neckliora. Next up at number 6, I've got a whiskey brand that I wouldn't call popular, but they are kind of gaining some traction. They reinvented themselves a few years back, and they're putting out some interesting whiskeys. And the brand is Federer Karen. The release that I want to talk about is their Warehouse series. This is a limited series, and I think they just put out their final release, which is the Warehouse 14. That's not one I've tried, but that's the one you're most likely to find if you go out looking for this stuff nowadays. The one I had was Warehouse 2 Batch 3, which had some rum in the mix. It had some red wine in the mix. It was interesting. Unfortunately for me, a lot of these bottles are really overpriced here in Taiwan, but I've checked the prices internationally, and for most markets, this is much more fairly priced. So you guys are lucky. I wish I could explore the series more. Definitely one that's worth checking out. So it comes in number 6, Federer Karen Warehouse. Next up, coming in at number 5, this is for you sherry bombers out there. I've got the Glendronic Cast Strength. Now, this is a series of whiskeys like the Federer Karen, and like the Federer Karen, I believe this series is coming to a close. The latest expression was the 12, the batch 12, and I think that's the last one from the line. Don't hold me to that. It's a rumor. If any of you can confirm down below, that'd be great. Regardless, the 12 is still around and you can buy it. And this is a pretty old series. It started back when Billy Walker was still running things. He left in like 2017. So it's had its sort of ups and downs. It's been a bit of a roller coaster. There was a massive dip in quality for a few years, but starting with around batch 10, it bounced back. The batch 12 is fantastic stuff. I've only had a sample, but it was very, very good. So it's one to check out. That comes in at number 5, Glendronic Cask Strength. Coming in at number 4, I've got 2 whiskeys here, so that's kind of cheating. In fact, it's 2 whiskeys from 2 different distilleries, and I'm still putting them together because I'm a wild card and I don't play by no rules. Both of these brands are sold under the Nikka umbrella. One is the Miyagi Kyo and the other is the Yoichi. Go for the Yoichi if you want something more peat forward. Go for the Miyagi Kyo if you want something more fruit forward with only a slight hint of peat. Both are rich, full-bodied, excellent whiskeys. Obviously, these are Japanese whiskeys, and Japanese whiskeys are always tricky to recommend because I just never know what the price is going to be in any given market, and sometimes those prices are exorbitant. So definitely don't overpay for them. For reference, here in Taiwan, they sell for about 75 US, so just over 60 pounds. Far, far less when I go to Japan. I tend to stock up on these because they're quite cheap there, but yeah, as long as you're not overpaying, these are genuinely interesting and delicious whiskeys, and I fully recommend them. Check them out if you get the chance. Miyagi Kyo and Yoichi. Coming in at number 3, I've got another pair of whiskeys. I'm out of control. Rules are being broken. This is chaos. At least this time the whiskeys are from the same distillery. I've got 2 peated Bunnahabhain OBs. Usually Bunnahabhain is not a peated whiskey. So the ones I'm recommending are the Krachmana and the whatever the fuck that is. These whiskeys don't get talked about very much, but they're both excellent. I did review the Klingon one a while back and I thoroughly enjoyed it. That's the one to go for if you want some peat, but also a strong sherried influence in the whiskey. Great for the price. Otherwise, if you're going for more of like a straight shooter with a big hit of peat, go for the Krachmana, 50% heavily peated, beautiful stuff. And speaking more broadly, peated Bunnahabhain is really, really good. Whether you're going for something like these or a Stoisha or a Moine release, they are fantastic whiskeys and they're always craft presented. It's a different take on the brand, so really well done. These are great whiskeys. Coming in at number 3, these. Next up, we've got a whiskey from a very talked about brand. So as a brand, it's not under the radar, but the release that I want to talk about, maybe a little bit, because all of their other releases seem to get all of the attention. They have a sherried release, they have cask strength releases, they have all these finishes, and rightly so, those are very deserving of attention, but I want to talk about Arden Merkin, and I want to talk about the standard AD release. This stuff is characterful, bright, distillate driven, it's coastal, it's fruity, it's oily, it's interesting. It's a fantastic whiskey, and I understand why all of their other releases seem to get a lot more hype. Oftentimes just because they are limited releases. Meanwhile, this one is the standard release, but it is a fantastic whiskey and it's a great introduction to the style of whiskey that you can expect from Arden Merkin. So if you've not tried it yet, this is a great one to check out. Comes in at number 2, Arden Merkin AD. Alright, so my pick for number 1 is going to be a controversial one. This whiskey won't be for everyone, but it's one of my personal favorites on this list, and ironically, it's also one of the cheapest. The whiskey I've got for you guys here is the Kingsbarns Dream to Dram. This is a bright, clean whiskey. It's got a laser sharp maltiness, as Whiskey Lock put it, and I think it's one of the most interesting entry-level expressions or affordable expressions on the market today. This will be one to try if you're into stuff like Bruichladdich Classic Laddie, in the sense that we do have some sharp, biting elements in here, but they really make it work. The thing about this one though is that it is a limited edition because it's getting replaced, or it's already been replaced, by a slightly older version of itself, and that's called the Ducat. So this one will slowly get phased out and you'll see it less and less, but for the moment it's still very widely available, at least here in Taiwan, easy to find on the shelves, and it's a beautiful whiskey. It's worth picking up. Comes in at number 1, Kingsbarns Dream to Dram. Alright, that's it. That's the list, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Obviously, it's a subjective list, and obviously, it's an incomplete list. I'm sure you've got some great suggestions. What are some no-age stated whiskeys that are kind of under the radar? They deserve more love. Not enough people are talking about them. Looking forward to reading what you guys come up with down in the comments. In the meantime, for those of you who stuck around to find out what the mystery pour over here in my glasses, I've got Talisker Surge. This is a really nice whiskey. I reviewed it a while back and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I didn't want to put it on the proper list because, well, for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, it's quite expensive. at least it was quite expensive on its release. It's since gone down in price, at least here in Taiwan, so it is more reasonably priced, but still not cheap. And reason number 2 is that this is a travel retail and you'd have to pick it up at an airport, which is kind of inconvenient. We're not always traveling all the time, so that's why it got relegated to a mystery pour. Still, it is a fantastic whiskey, and as far as I'm concerned, it's the best no-age stated Talisker on the market today, since we don't have the 57 North anymore. It is a beautiful whiskey. Pick it up if you get the chance. And that is it for our video today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to help out the channel, I do have the Patreon. Otherwise, liking, commenting, and subscribing helps out a great deal. Looking forward to reading your suggestions down below in the comments, and I suppose we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.